Ladies and gentlemen, we have just found the smoking gun. We have just found the proof that the Democrats in 2018 and 2019 were actually colluding with Jeffrey Epstein in more ways than one to try to bring down President Trump. And so, folks, today we are going to go through all of the proof and all of the evidence. And by the way, there was a lot to go through, so do me a favor and make sure to stick around for today's entire video, because between you and me, we are about to destroy the Democrats' entire narrative. Now, as I'm sure many of you have heard, 2 days ago, the Democrats selectively released a collection of Jeffrey Epstein's old emails, and of course, they did this in an effort to try to make President Trump look bad. The problem for them, however, is that pretty much the exact opposite thing has ended up happening, and the reason why is because in their haste to destroy President Trump's reputation, they actually ended up releasing information that incriminates themselves. You see, thanks to the Democrats' own ineptitude, what we now officially have proof of is that the Democrats actually colluded with Jeffrey Epstein for years in an effort to try to bring down President Trump. And so on that note, let me go ahead and introduce a senior-ranking member of the Obama administration, a woman named Kathy Rumler, who was actually Barack Obama's official White House counsel. And well, as it would turn out, Miss Rumler had a pretty interesting relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, especially as it relates to President Trump. Take a look.
The White House counsel for Barack Obama, Kathy Rumler, communicating in 2018 with Jeffrey Epstein. This is about the one of the court cases that they were going after Trump for. And she writes, here's a story from the New York Times that I thought you'd find interesting. The principled case for impeachment is clear. What is missing is courage. This is Obama's lawyer, the White House counsel. Jeffrey Epstein responds, I think he makes the argument that it was Trump's money, making it not illegal. This was the case about where they went after his accountants and in New York. So this is Jeffrey Epstein working directly with Obama's lawyer to insinuate that Jeffrey Epstein might flip on Trump, insinuating that he was somehow Trump's fixer. But what this actually shows is the Democrat Party coordinating with Jeffrey Epstein kind of on the eve of his own second indictment to try to get Donald Trump indicted and impeached himself.
And so, folks, do you understand what all of that really means? In 2018, Barack Obama's former official White House counsel, Kathy Rumler, was personally communicating, colluding, and plotting with Jeffrey Epstein on ways to get President Trump indicted. And by the way, she was scheming with Jeffrey Epstein 10 years after Epstein first pled guilty to child prostitution charges in 2008. Absolutely disgusting. But ladies and gentlemen, like I said, the Democrats were actually colluding and scheming with Jeffrey Epstein to try to take down President Trump in more ways than one. And so, folks, on that note, let me go ahead and introduce all of you to Democrat U.S. House Representative Stacey Plaskett, who in 2019 was sitting on the House Oversight Committee. Now, as many of you might remember, in February of 2019, Michael Cohen testified in front of the House Oversight Committee against President Trump. All of that being said, thanks to these recently released emails, we now have concrete proof that Representative Plaskett was actually texting none other than Jeffrey Epstein himself during the House Oversight Committee's inquiry into Cohen, and Epstein was quite literally feeding her questions and talking points. And if you don't believe me, take a look at this. All of this was actually caught live on video, but here are some highlights. Mid-inquiry, Jeffrey Epstein texted Representative Plaskett, Cohen brought up Rona, keeper of the secrets. Representative Plaskett responds saying, Rona. Then she says, quick, I'm up next. Is that an acronym? Then Jeffrey Epstein responds, that's his assistant. And then, after having Jeffrey Epstein tell her exactly what to say, Representative Plaskett took the stand. Check it out.
Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals? Are they with the Trump Organization?
They are.
Are there other people that we should be meeting with?
So Alan Weisselberg is the chief financial officer.
You got to quickly give us as many names as you can so we can get to them.
Yes, ma'am.
You hear that? You've got to give us as many names as you can so that we can get to them, she said after being fed talking points by none other than Jeffrey Epstein. And once again, folks, at this point, Jeffrey Epstein had already pled guilty to child prostitution charges 11 years prior. And still, not only are all of these senior-ranking Democrats communicating with him, but even worse, they're actually colluding with him to try to take down President Trump. But now, folks, if you can even imagine it, this is where things actually get even worse for the Democrats, because this is where we're going to start talking about what's currently being done to hold all of these people accountable. But before we take a look at that, I do want to quickly say that if you folks enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. But okay, check this out. Just earlier today, Republican House Representative James Comer, who was also sitting on the House Oversight Committee in 2019, came out and said that when the House Oversight Committee Democrats tried to take down President Trump, quote, they all worked with the same person, Jeffrey Epstein. And so, folks, you know what? As things currently stand, it sure seems like he's right about that, huh? Which is why, as of earlier today, the Department of Justice has officially opened an investigation into all of these Democrats that colluded with Jeffrey Epstein. Take a look.
The Democrats tried to make hay, but it hasn't stuck to Donald Trump. You know where it's sticking? To Democrats. And today the story really significantly boomeranged around. Why is that? First, just a few moments ago, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced that she is naming the acting U.S. attorney in New York City, Jay Clayton, to investigate Democrats' relationships with Jeffrey Epstein and whether any of them rose to the level of criminality. Why? Because so many of the emails today didn't involve Donald Trump or Republicans. That's right. It involved all those Democrats. And this time around, the idea that Democrats would project on Republicans ain't going to cut it. This Justice Department is going to go full bore into that. That is a big, big decision in the weaponization era. And it's another of many signs that I think Pam Bondi is moving towards approving the notion that there was a grand conspiracy against Donald Trump and his followers and conservatives, and it needs to be treated as such, just like the mob was involved in a grand conspiracy or drug cartels were involved in a grand conspiracy. It looks like the Justice Department is moving closer and closer to that.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. As things currently stand, it seems as if the Department of Justice is actively building out a grand conspiracy case against all of these Democrats that colluded with Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted child sex trafficker, in an attempt to fraudulently indict and criminally pursue the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump. Finally, at long last, all of these traitorous, subversive Democrats on the far left that have fought tooth and nail to try to defame President Trump, to criminally pursue all of his supporters, and to really destroy this entire republic are going to be facing some accountability. And you know what? Good, because that is what it's going to take to finally start putting America first.